I'm hearing Mitchell Trubisky could very well start this game. Pickett would come in for him fairly early at some point in that game, and they'll go from there. But this is still a competition. There's no doubt about it.
I like that it's still a competition. So given that, Sam, who should be the week 1 starter?
I still think it should be Mitch Trubisky, and I don't think Trubisky has done anything to show that he shouldn't be the starter, even though Kenny Pickett's looked like a pro. Like, we all know that he's looked like a pro, but there is a reality that when the regular season starts, you're not going to get vanilla defenses anymore. You're not going to get base defense anymore. You're going to get different kind of zone pressures, different kinds of coverages that Mitch Trubisky has seen before. And so I still think you go with Mitch for now because he's shown that he has the mobility, the precision to be able to run the offense in Pittsburgh.
And Jeff, what do you need to see? What do you want to see from Pickett on this weekend?
Decision-making and getting the ball out of his hand. Listen, Himbo gave me a stat. Last year, Roethlisberger got rid of the ball in 2.3 seconds. Kenny Pickett's average in college was 3.1 seconds. So you're talking about almost a full second difference. The NFL is a fast league. Mitch Trubisky somewhere in the 2.6 range. Listen, this would be the 4th slowest in the league if he holds it. That's a lot of sacks behind a bad offensive line. He better get that decision-making process figured out in a hurry and get the ball out of his hand. He does that, be a bunch of sacks in Pittsburgh.
Ooh, don't want that. Last word.
Yeah, well, just a quick add. The Steelers know that if they go to Kenny Pickett, there's no turning back, right? You can't go to Mitch Trubisky after that. So they can start with Trubisky, as the strategy suggests, and then you can go to Pickett when the time's right, week 6, week 10, whenever it is.
It really does feel like the smart play, even though I'm sure Pittsburgh fans are like, 49ers, Texans, that means we're talking about Trey Lance. And there it was. First quarter, 49ers first possession being chased, throws it to Kyle Juszczyk, who makes the catch. 15 yards, first down. Looking good early. Later in the drive, 3rd and 2, Lance drops back. The long pass to Debo. Can't quite reel it in. 49ers punt. Sam, little ups and downs in this one.
Yeah, ups and downs. That was a great defensive play on that one.
Yeah, and then right here he drops back and sacked by Kyle Heinisch. Next play, 2nd and 17. 49ers, by the way, down 7-0. And Lance, unable to connect with George Kittle, would end in another punt here. Late in the first quarter, Niners inside their own 20. Lance to Malik Turner for 14. First down, he was 7 for 11 on the night. 49ers lose, but here's Lance on his performance on the night.
Some ups and downs for sure. Never feels good to lose, but man, we'll learn from it, turn the page. Not going to make a bigger deal out of it than we need to, for sure. But, man, like I said, man, never feels good to lose. Some ugly stuff out there for sure.
There you have it. You know, Lance played 5 series this preseason, completing 11 of his 16 passes for 141 yards and a touchdown. Didn't throw an interception, but he was sacked twice and also added 8 rushing yards on 2 carries. Now, keep in mind, the 49ers opened the regular season against the Bears in Chicago on September 11th. So, Sam, as you watch this game, what was your single biggest takeaway from Trey Lance's performance?
Yeah, as a defender, I watched the game, and obviously there was a porous offensive line, and so his best left tackle wasn't playing, Trent Williams. He was getting pressured. But I said, man, if I'm a defender, I know he loves to run the ball. There were some times where that ball was a little bit loose. And so I know for me, I'm saying, hey, this is not Jimmy Garoppolo anymore, but this is a quarterback who, this is a play, 3rd and 17. You're going to see him move in the pocket. And then if I'm a defender, I'm highlighting that ball right there. Go get the ball. That's what defensive players think about, especially when you have a quarterback who likes to scramble. He was safe there. There's another play later on in the game that was an incomplete pass, but that ball was hanging out a little bit. And so obviously, number one, you go to him and say, hey, ball control. But defenders, we put this tape on and say we can force some turnovers on a young quarterback who's trying to make plays.
Yeah, and we're looking at the particulars here. I know we're nitpicking a little bit, but did you think he had a bad night?
I didn't think he had a bad night. It wasn't overly impressive. It wasn't anything to write home about. There were a couple throws that I'm sure he wished he had back. But it's hard to judge when he was getting pressured nearly, almost every play.
It's a good point. Jeff, you have some plays too. What did you see last night from Lance that you'd like to see improve?
Honestly, this is exactly what I expected, right? He's going to have some good days and bad days. This is a guy who's thrown 389 passes in college and the pros, y'all. Watch this. He's breaking outside. He's getting towards the sideline. He throws it in the dirt. Like, he's going to want that one back, right? He goes back and watches film. He'd like to put that on the receiver. Puts a ball up and again. Sam talked about it, said it best. A good defensive play, but when you got that kind of coverage, you're hoping Samuel comes down with that ball. And then this miss to Kittle as he's running a little short out right there. You got to hit that one, right? I mean, that right there is bread and butter type plays that you're going to go back as a quarterback and go, man, I wish I had that back. I need to be better on those plays. But to Trey Lance in totality, 49ers fans are going to have to expect these type of games. This guy has not played a lot of football, again, even in college, pros, 389 passes. He'll throw throw more than that this season, right? So there's going to be some ups and downs. This has to be expected from him. Again, I'm glad he said what he said. It was not a particularly good night. It wasn't a horrible night. He wasn't turning the ball over. Again, I'm with Sam. He needs to protect the football. But here's the thing that defenses aren't playing right now that's going to change a little bit in the regular season. That 3rd and 2 in the preseason, you're not letting that quarterback run it. You're not risking him getting hurt to last night. In the regular season, you are risking that. So there's a little more on your plate as a defense and expectation. And the other thing, Jerry Hughes, you're seeing him right here, was in the backfield all night. I mean, he camped out and created chaos. So I can't imagine that Trey Lance ever felt comfortable in that game anyway.
Yeah, it could make it interesting. Could we see a different Trey Lance once the regular season starts? So, Jeremy, what are you hearing about Lance's progress so far?
Yeah, when I talk to people around the league, Ryan, it's a common theme that the 49ers could be less efficient with Trey Lance early on, but more explosive, bigger plays. He can throw the deep ball. He can run. You saw that in the first preseason game. This one, not so much. So when the explosion's not there, it doesn't look great. So there are concerns about his accuracy, but I'm told he has improved that over the last 8 months, just didn't show up in a big way last night.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Kyle Shanahan wanted, right? The idea was get that explosive talent in there. Very different look from what he had with Jimmy Garoppolo. Very different discussion this morning. Jeremy, what are all the tentacles of all this moving forward?
Yeah, just checked in on this with a source, was told that clubs are responsible for overseeing the conduct among players at joint practices. So there's really nothing coming from the league right now. It's up to the team, as we talked about. I checked with the Rams. I'm told they are going to review this. They have the tape of it. They'll take a hard look at that, put it in slow motion, see exactly what happened. They'll have some conversations in-house. So perhaps a fine would not shock. But otherwise, it's up to the team and Sean McVay.
Yeah, Sam, I look at this again, and I just can't stop watching and thinking about, again, if it connected with someone who wasn't wearing a helmet and they sustained a serious injury. Is this the kind of thing you've seen often?
Yeah, well, I'm with you. Like, if you look at it, you say, man, imagine if you would have had a helmet on. Imagine this. But, like, you go back and find out what led to this.
Okay.
And apparently, like, some guys on the Bengals offense were taking off helmets from Rams players and throwing them at Rams players. And that wasn't caught on camera. And so if we are going to levy a judgment on what we saw on video, let's go back and review the rest of the video and levy a judgment there. But that's not my place, right? This is not only is it football, but it's the trenches, right? Like emotions, not swinging helmets, but getting in fights. And so I've seen fights like this before, and I think it's up to the team to decide what should be punished. And I've played for coaches who said, hey, you're going to be kicked out of practice, you're going to be fined, et cetera. Let the coach decide.
Jeff, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, let me just say this. And Sam makes a great point. Most of the time, I was just at the joint practice between the Colts and the Detroit Lions last week. Most of the time, the coaches get together and they beat their chest about this. We do not want fights. We don't want we don't want any kind of skirmish to come up. Like, make sure that we're keeping our emotions in check. So everybody's doing everything they can. To Sam's point, obviously this thing got completely out of control. You hate to see it. But again, when we're talking about suspending a player outside of a practice, this has to come from the team. This is not an NFL. This is not a game. Somebody had a phone or somebody's recording this, and so it's going. But we don't see what's happening before. We don't see. So it becomes very difficult for teams to handle this. Obviously, again, it's a black eye for the league. You don't ever want to see your best of your best doing this. And I'm sure Aaron Donald's not proud of what he did. He reacted in emotion. He did things he probably is not proud of. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to deal with that in-house.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he has to say about this when he probably speaks about it in the very near future. All right, so let's go from that fight to the game of